What if the love you longed for was never returned? What if you spent your whole life watching someone else receive the affection that was meant for you? Leah's story is one of heartbreak and rejection, yet hidden within her pain is a powerful message of purpose, grace, and divine blessing. Her journey reveals that God sees those whom the world overlooks, and that true fulfillment is found not in human love, but in His eternal plan. Leah was the eldest daughter of Laban, a wealthy and shrewd man who lived in Paddan Aram, also known as Haran. This region, located in Mesopotamia, was a significant place in biblical history, where Abraham's family had settled before God called him to Canaan. Genesis 11:31. Laban was the brother of Rebekah, Jacob's mother, making him Jacob's uncle. Laban was known for his cunning and deceptive nature, a characteristic that played a pivotal role in Leah's story. Leah was described as having weak eyes, which most scholars interpreted as having a less striking beauty as her younger sister, while others suggest she was delicate or soft-hearted. Regardless, it is clear that Leah lived in the shadow of her younger sister Rachel, who was stunningly beautiful. Genesis 29:17. Jacob, the grandson of Abraham, had fled to his uncle Laban's household to escape his brother Esau's wrath. When Jacob arrived at Laban's home after fleeing from his brother Esau, Laban welcomed him warmly. However, his hospitality was tainted by self-interest. Seeing that Jacob was strong and hard-working, Laban seized the opportunity to profit from him, offering Rachel in marriage in exchange for 7 years of labor. Genesis 29:15-18. Jacob was captivated by Rachel's beauty and agreed to work 7 years for Laban in exchange for her hand in marriage. 7 years passed, and finally, the long-awaited wedding night came. But under the cover of darkness and with the aid of heavy wedding veils, Laban deceived Jacob. Instead of Rachel, he gave Leah to him as his wife. Imagine Leah's emotions, knowing that the man she was about to marry did not love her, knowing that she was part of a cruel deception. And imagine Jacob's shock when in the morning light he discovered he had married the wrong woman. Furious, Jacob confronted Laban, who justified his actions by saying that it was not their custom to marry off the younger daughter before the older one. Genesis 29:26. Laban then offered Rachel as well, if Jacob worked another 7 years. Leah's wedding was not filled with joy. It was a marriage of trickery, rejection, and sorrow. She was married, but she was unloved. She would now have to share her husband with the woman he truly loved. Leah desperately longed for Jacob's love. In ancient times, a woman's value was largely determined by her ability to bear children, and Leah hoped that by giving Jacob sons, she would win his affection. The Lord saw her misery and blessed her with fertility, while Rachel remained barren. Leah gave birth to her first son and named him Reuben, saying, "Because the Lord has seen my misery, surely my husband will love me now." Genesis 29:32. But Jacob's heart did not change. She bore a second son, Simeon, saying, "Because the Lord heard that I am not loved, He gave me this one too." Genesis 29:33. Still, Jacob's love did not turn toward her. A third son, Levi, came next, and Leah, who said, "Now at last my husband will become attached to me because I have borne him 3 sons." Genesis 29:34. Yet Jacob's love remained with Rachel. But something in Leah's heart changed when she had her 4th son. Instead of crying out for Jacob's affection, she simply praised God. She named him Judah, saying, "This time I will praise the Lord." Genesis 29:35. This marked a turning point. She began to seek her worth in God rather than in Jacob's approval. Leah continued to bear children, ultimately giving birth to Issachar, Zebulun, and a daughter, Dinah. Genesis 30:17-21. Her legacy grew, though her heartache likely remained. She watched as Jacob showered Rachel with attention, even after Rachel struggled with infertility and resorted to giving Jacob her maidservant Bilhah to bear children on her behalf. Leah, not to be outdone, gave Jacob her maidservant Zilpah, who bore additional sons, Gad and Asher. Genesis 39:13. Despite Leah's rejection, God demonstrated his love for her through the destinies of her children. Each of her sons played a crucial role in shaping Israel's history. Reuben, though he was Jacob's firstborn, he forfeited his birthright due to an indiscretion. Genesis 35:22. However, his tribe settled on the east of the Jordan and remained significant in Israel's history. Simeon. The tribe of Simeon was eventually absorbed into Judah, showing how Leah's lineage remained at the heart of Israel's destiny. Levi, his descendants, the Levites, were set apart as priests, serving in the tabernacle and later, the temple. Through Levi, Leah's legacy was tied to the worship of God in Israel. Judah. The most remarkable of Leah's sons, Judah became the ancestor of Israel's greatest kings, including David and ultimately Jesus Christ. Leah, the unloved wife, became the matriarch of the Messiah. Issachar. Issachar's descendants were known for their wisdom and understanding of the times. 1 Chronicles 12:32, a legacy of spiritual discernment. Zebulun. His descendants played a major role in Israel's maritime trade, fulfilling Jacob's blessing that he would dwell by the seashore. Genesis 49:13. Dinah. The only named daughter of Leah, Dinah's story was one of tragedy and consequences. However, through her, Leah's story reminds us of the trials women faced in ancient cultures and God's justice over time. Leah's children became a foundation of Israel, proving that despite being unloved by her husband, she was never overlooked by God. Though Jacob favored Rachel, God had a different plan. Through Leah's son Judah, the royal lineage of Israel was established, leading all the way to King David and ultimately to Jesus Christ. Matthew 1:2-3. Leah, the unloved woman, became the matriarch of the Messiah. Meanwhile, Rachel eventually bore children, Joseph and Benjamin, but died in childbirth. She was buried on the road to Bethlehem, while Leah was later honored with burial in the family tomb alongside Jacob, Abraham, and Isaac. Genesis 49:31. In the end, Leah was given a place of honor in the legacy of God's people. What can we learn from Leah's story? Leah's story speaks to anyone who has ever felt unseen, unloved, or second best. But God does not define us by the world's standards. He sees our true worth. Here are some life lessons from Leah's story. God sees the overlooked. Leah was unloved by Jacob, but she was never unloved by God. He blessed her abundantly and gave her a role in his divine plan. True fulfillment comes from God. Leah's early life was spent seeking validation from Jacob, but her joy was complete when she turned to the Lord in worship. God uses the rejected for his purpose. Though Leah was not Jacob's first choice, she was God's chosen vessel to bring forth the lineage of Jesus Christ. Your story is not over. No matter how painful your past, God can turn your sorrow into purpose, patience, and endurance. Lead to legacy. Leah endured silent suffering, yet her descendants shaped the future of God's people. Here are some questions to reflect on. Have you ever felt like Leah, overlooked, unloved, or rejected? How does her story encourage you? Are there areas in your life where you seek human validation instead of God's approval? How can Leah's example inspire you to trust in God's plan, even when things seem unfair? If this story inspired you, make sure to like this video so more people can hear Leah's powerful story. Subscribe to the channel for more mind-blowing biblical insights. Hit the notification bell for more powerful and engaging Bible stories. Thank you for watching, and remember, God's love always prevails.